Hello, it's Ed. Thanks for joining me. Hope you're well. It is absolutely lashing down outside today. The wind is gusting. It's a horrible, horrible day, but I'm determined to go out and get some street photographs. Why? Because I've just received from eBay a really exciting camera, a new camera to me, a very old camera in fact, and one I just found while I was scrolling through, as I do, searching for the ultimate street photography film camera. Now, I don't know if this will be it, but we'll give it a go. You know, I've tried so many different things, the XA series that are really brilliant, the little Minox. I've even tried SLRs like the EOS one for street photography, but they're so noisy. The recoil from that shutter, everybody turns around to see what on earth is going on. So probably not ideal. But I've always wanted to find something that bridges that gap between a rangefinder where you can't see exactly what you're getting and an SLR where you do, but there's that shutter blackout and the noise. So I discovered this. It is the Canon RT, and RT stands for real time, because this has the option to shoot in real time, because it has a very clever thing called a pellicle mirror, which replaces the flippy uppy mirror that makes all the noise in the other Canon EOS series and most other SLR cameras. There is a kind of mirror in here that reflects a third of the light to the eyepiece and 2/3 of the light when the shutter's in to the film. So it's very clever. It doesn't require any flipping, any messing about, but there is one slight problem with it, which is that if any dirt gets on this mirrored surface, it will mess up your photo. So I'm going to be very careful changing my lenses that I don't get any dirt in here, because it's not like with the mirror where it flips up and there's just air there between the lens and the film. I'm hoping that this isn't already dirty. It looks pretty clean. I've had a little look at it and I think it will be tickety-boo. I'm going to load it with Colour Plus and I'm going to head out into Manchester, because I don't think there's going to be anybody on the streets of Stockport today. It's probably just too grim, but there might be some people around Manchester who will make interesting subjects for a street photography day out. I don't think we're going to get great pictures today, but we'll hopefully get a good test of this camera. Right, let's crack on and brave the elements. So what a difference a couple of hours can make. I've just come in from Stockport to Manchester, and in the time it's taken me, it's dried up. The wind has died down quite a bit. Maybe the storm has passed. I will make the most of it while it lasts. And I've got a 50mm lens on the RT to start with. I've got a 28 in my pocket, which I might swap to later. And we'll see if we can get some silent-ish shots and test the shutter noise on this. So we need to set it to RT, which is the special mode, which means that when we hold the button down, it's then silent. I'll tell you more about it as we go along. All looking good, 50 on, full 36 shots of Colour Plus. It's grey, but it's doable. Let's crack on. Okay, so I've put you on the POV so I can chat as we walk. And as I was saying just before, I've got the camera set to RT, which means that there will be no blackout of the shutter when I use it. And the only noise that you really get is when you half press the shutter, as I'm going to do now. And actually there will just be a very quiet click when it takes the picture. And I think I ought to actually show you how this works. So looking in here, this is the pellicle mirror, which I think is a sheet of very fine film. And when you half press the shutter, the exposure meter flips out of the way. So that's what makes that clacking noise as it drops down. And also the aperture of the lens will contract as well. So there you go. That's just a little bit of behind the scenes. Okay, so I'm getting into a busier area and I've decided it's probably best actually to swap to the 28mm lens. Pop that in there, pop this back in the pocket, and we will go on to manual focus. Take the lens cap off, obviously. 1 meter. Aperture priority. And we'll go to around 5.6, because on a wide angle, that's usually enough to give you front to back sharpness. And that's saying around 180th of a second, which should be okay. I'd obviously like it to be faster. I'd rather have somewhere around 500, but we'll see how it works out anyway. So I did notice a little bit of dirt around the corners of the viewfinder when I was setting this up. And it's going to be interesting to see if they're actually on the focusing screen, which doesn't matter, it's just a little bit annoying to look through, or if they're on the pellicle mirror itself, but we will see. It says if you need it cleaning, send it to an authorised Canon service centre. Well, that's not going to happen. Up ahead we've got the Chinese supermarket with all the boxes. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to half press the shutter now to get the noisy bit out of the way. There we go. And then when I go past, I shouldn't have to make any noise at all. And there you go. I don't think anybody noticed that shot being taken. The sound was very, very quiet, and I didn't interrupt the scene. I didn't change anything. And I think that's a really important thing in street photography, that you are recording what happens. You're not making things happen and then recording them. It's a good illustration of how the camera works, and it also is good that we can see that there doesn't appear to be any damage to the pellicle mirror. There are no dust spots that I can see. There's no loss of resolution due to perhaps scratching of that mirror that would lead to diffraction and blurring of the image as a whole. So I'm pretty happy with using this camera to shoot from the hip. So you can see that I'm using it like a rangefinder here. I'm not using the SLR bit at all. So you could say, well, what is the point in that case? But the thing is, I can go up to the eye and get a more studied composition if I want to, which I wouldn't be able to do with a rangefinder. So up ahead again, we've got a guy smoking next to a door, and I think that might make a nice shot, but I don't want to disturb him as I go past. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to expose now. So I've got the shutter half pressed down, and then when I go past, I can just release the shutter. It'll just be a tiny click, which will be fine, won't it? And then as I go past, I wind on. So yeah, another picture, not particularly exciting. I would have liked to have caught him actually exhaling a puff of smoke or something with a little bit more drama to it, but it does show that you can do this, and again, it was completely unobserved. You can also see the shot is a rather blurry, and that is because of the settings that I'm using. With this 200 speed film on a very, very dark winter's day, it's not ideal, and so this is not a great result, but that's the settings of the camera rather than problems with the camera. It's user error, I'm afraid. And now with this puddle here, this might be interesting as people go past. So there we go. I think I did catch more of a decisive moment. Again, unfortunately, there's a slight blur to this because of the settings. There was no shutter blackout when I took this picture, and I think that is really important. But again, I'm so used to there being a tiny pause between pressing the shutter and getting the result that maybe I'm anticipating a little bit, and I need to learn to not anticipate as much and take the shot at the moment rather than just before the moment, because there isn't that lag. But I'm quite happy with that picture, again, as a training session picture. So this might be a place, again, where I could stop and use the barrels as the foreground and then just wait for something to pass. And we can actually use the viewfinder here so that we can see what we're doing. We need to be like that and wait for somebody to come in through this area here. And I think we'll be all right. There we go.
It's a good shot.
Yeah. Well, maybe not a great shot, actually, but thank you. It's very kind of you to say so. You didn't see the finished result. I'm sorry. It was not the best composition ever. So I think this setup is great for if you are waiting for one stealth shot. It's like Dave the Jackal. Got one shot and you're just going to have your finger on the trigger waiting for that perfect moment. But if you are out and about just doing normal stuff, I don't really think it's great for that. There are too many other things to think about. Again, it goes back to if you really want to go stealth, you get a mirrorless camera which is silent and shoots 50 frames a second, focuses within a fraction of a second, does it all for you. But that's not the fun of it, is it? It's not the thrill of the chase. And so here we go, cutting to the thrill of the chase. Yeah, this works with this mirror, that might work. And yeah, I think this is quite a nice example. I've got the person in the mirror coming past, and there was an instant response from the camera, and nobody was disturbed by the picture being taken. One of the things I was alluding to when I was talking before about it being good for just one shot, it's not just the fact that it winds on, but also if you're holding your finger half pressed over that shutter for any length of time, it's very easy to just accidentally press the shutter down or keep releasing the shutter if you're trying to not put too much pressure on it, in which case you get clack, 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 clack noises as the exposure meter goes in and out of place. And so you're actually creating more noise than you would have done if you'd been using the SLR on its normal mode. But there you go. It was very much a learning experience. Here are a couple more pictures that I took on this first trip out with the camera, because there is going to be a second, because so many of these pictures were soft because of the settings that I was using. This would have been a really nice shot. I love the colours here. There's all the different coloured bottles on the supermarket shelves. There are the bright sneakers and coloured trousers and jackets, and it would be lovely if it was sharp. And again, this one, I kind of like the motion blur in this. It gives it a sense of energy and city bustle, but that isn't what I was actually trying to achieve. It's a mistake. Okay, so it's the next day now, and I have looked through the pictures that I took yesterday, and I was disappointed to say the least. Lots of motion blur, lots of focus blur, because I was using a 200 speed film on a really gloomy day on a camera, which of course I should have remembered. I'm losing 2/3 of a stop of light because of the pellicle mirror, because a third of the light is going up into the viewfinder at all times. So today I'm going to try and remedy things by shooting this a 3200 Delta. I'm going to shoot it at 1600. I've just been in and bought this now. I'm going to put it in the camera. It's a much brighter day today as well, and I should be able to use settings that are more appropriate to street photography. 1/500th of a second, maybe even 1,000th of a second, and f8. We'll see how we get on. I'll probably film less today because I want to concentrate properly on what I do, but hopefully we'll have some interesting pictures by the end of it. Let's load up and crack on. Right, so we're loaded up. f8, somewhere between 500 and 1,000th of a second. I've got the hyperfocal distance set to 1 meter. I reckon that should give us pretty good results. Let's go. So I walked across Stevenson Square, and the first thing that I was interested in was the pedestrian crossing, which had a little smiley face on it. I wanted to get the reflections of people going through, and I thought because I was able to have these narrow apertures and fast shutter speeds, I will be able to do that, and I did. Everything is sharp in this picture, or relatively, but it's not a great picture because using the black and white film, it's not obvious that there's a person in the background there. So a bit of a fail, but a proof that the camera can do what I want it to if I use the right materials and select the right settings. So this picture, again, somebody having a cigarette in a doorway, I think it's better than the one I took the day before, even though the light is pretty much the same here. There's some slight motion blur, but it does work. And you can see that in direct sunlight with this picture here, so I was able to go for a shutter speed of 2,000th of a second and f8. It's crisp, it's sharp. The image quality is, I would say, on a par with every other SLR. Obviously, it's not a high-res scan, and you might see some softening due to the light going through this pellicle mirror. A very, very high resolution, but for street photography, I think it's absolutely fine. So there's a few examples, but what about the actual user experience? So I don't think I've actually shown you how it looks when you take a picture through this, and the fact that there's no blackout, it's an instant picture. So there's a good opportunity here, so I will show you what I see through the shutter as I take the next shot. So that noise is the exposure meter dropping down, and the darkening of the picture and the sharpening of the picture is the iris contracting. So you're getting a depth of field preview all the time, which could be an issue if it was a darker day and a narrower aperture. And now it's just time to wait for the moment. And that's the picture being taken. You saw there was no blackout. It was just like using a rangefinder, except I was seeing exactly what I was taking. And I got the moment that I wanted. The figure is in exactly the position I wanted them to be in. And with a little bit of post-production, I can create those dark shadows that are what I was trying to get from this picture and make it more dramatic. So a bit of a win with the camera on this one, and so much so that I decided to take another couple of pictures here, and I quite like this one as well. You can see the light bouncing off the building in the background and the figures and the no entry sign. So yeah, quite nice, that one. And walking on a little bit, I took this one of somebody walking straight towards me, and I was able to time the exposure well. This last picture in the set, I just thought I'd show it because I think it's a bit more creative than the others. There are some people cleaning up the street cleaning apparatus in front of a piece of street art which depicts a brush and a shovel. So I think that's kind of an interesting picture. And again, one taken without interfering with the scene. And having taken those pictures, I wandered around looking for a few more, but there wasn't really anything much going on. Everything I saw was beautiful colours, and I had black and white film. So I decided it was time to call it a day and head back to the studio. So there we go. The Canon RT, probably not the solution to my street photography needs, but it's a really interesting camera, and I will find a use for it, I hope. Maybe if you can think of some good uses for it that I could try, you could drop those in the comments and I will give them a go. But that's it for this time. Please do like, share, subscribe, you know the drill. And until we meet again, do take care of yourselves, enjoy what you're shooting. Bye for now.